Strangely, in all the other traditions, we are always told to renounce everything related to this body. We are told, go into the Himalayas, wear fewer clothes, acquire fewer things. But here is one tradition which is saying just treat the body as a temple, give it all that it needs, give it, the all the material things that you need, give it everything. Don't renounce anything, and still keep your eye on the goal of moksha, which I think is such a beautiful practice. And I find the unusual nature of this to be, for me, the most important thing about Sri Vidya.
Yeah. I want to ask you, I want you to expand on this. But before that, I have a question that then how does a beginner know that, how am I supposed to chant that Bij mantra? Like, what would be the right way, or what should be the right pranayama when I'm chanting it? Because I think most of the people feel that the mantra was ineffective is because we don't know the right way to chant. And especially when we don't even have a guru. So what would be the correct, how do I know?
Initially, to begin with, for the Bala Tripura Sundari mantra or for the Mahaganapati mantra, these are what are called prasiddha mantras. There's not too much, ritual attached to it. There's not, it can't do anything wrong, at least, in the sense that it doesn't bring much harm if it's mispronounced or mischanted. But with the bigger mantras, when you go into Panchadashi and Shodashi, all of these things that you're pointing out become very important. So Aim Kleem Sau, with it just being 3 bijas, there's very little you can do wrong. You don't really need a guru. And you say it, it doesn't really matter, because with 3 bijas, it's probably going to take you 3 seconds. So it's the possibility of something going wrong is very limited.
Now let's come to the Sri Chakra, the yantra, right? And I have heard you also explain Sri Chakra in all dimensions also, because I think according to dimensions, it changes, right? So if you can help us understand that what is Mahameru from that aspect,
right,
and what are these 9 avarnas that we speak of when we speak of Sri Chakra?
Okay. So unidimensionally, when we talk of the Sri Yantra, it would just be that it's more of a very universal thing which exists in nature itself, everywhere in nature. Because again, I keep going back to quantum physics, because now everyone understands that universe is mathematics at work. So unidimensionally, we look around us and we see that everything is a reflection of the numbers of the Sri Yantra, the Fibonacci sequence. The 2-dimension version is when it is etched on either copper or gold or whatever it is. And important to remember here that the geometry has to be accurate, because there are many versions which may not be accurate. So when it's an art form, it's fine to not adhere to the exact geometry. But when you're meditating upon it or using it for worship, then it's absolutely essential that you stick with the accurate geometry. So the 2-dimensional is what is called a Bhrupastara, which is the etching or a drawing or even on stone carving. The 3-dimensional version is the Mahameru, which is literally if you were to draw it and then pull it up.
Okay.
Right? So in a 3-dimensional form, that is the Mahameru. Typically, it is done in Panchaloha, which is a mixture of 5 metals, and which is considered the most auspicious. And of course, there are also many people who have Sphatika, which is a crystal. I'm a little wary of the crystal one, because I am yet to see very accurate Sri Yantras, because if it has to be carved, then with Sphatika, it's very difficult, because it's a delicate element. So I would say the Mahameru in Panchaloha is the ideal one. And it can be used for Kumkumarchane, for any of the rituals which are associated with Sri Vidya. The Mahameru is a good starting point.
And as a beginner, if I have to start meditating on it, is it important that I have to do its pran pratishtha at home, or I can just and am I even supposed to purchase it, or is it always gifted and given?
I would actually say it's better to buy your own Mahameru or the Bhrupastara after ensuring that the geometry is accurate. Because when someone gifts it to you, you don't have that much control over whether the geometry is right or wrong.
Right.
It's better to just buy one which you know is accurate, which has been validated by some Agama Shastra professor or someone who knows a little more. And in terms of Prana Pratishta, you're chanting before it. You're doing a Lalita Sahasranama or you're doing a Bala Tripura Sundari Japa before it will automatically enliven in it with the energy that you're trying to get it to carry.
Okay. So even if I'm just a beginner, I can still chant the Sahasranama so that it can purify and start with the practice?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And what are the 9 avarnas that we can see in Mahameru?
Okay. So we start with the outer. So let's put it like this. We are talking of the universal blueprint, right? So we start with a square. A square is the only shape where you can get all the 10 cardinal directions, literally, right? So you have north, south, east, west, northeast, southwest, etc., and top and bottom. So that's the square which encapsulates space. Then after that, you've got 3 concentric circles. So the first avarana is between the square and the 3 concentric circles. Now first, let's talk about what an avarana actually means. In Sanatana, we always talk of Srishti, Sthiti and Laya.
What is
Srishti is creation, Sthiti is preservation, and Laya is dissolution.
Okay.
This is what we normally talk of. But actually there are 2 more processes involved in creation. The 4th one is called Tirodhana, which is the falling of the veil, which, the illusion which the deity or, the universal intelligence brings before us so that we don't identify immediately with the divine. It's like I would draw a parallel with a video game where the creator of the video game puts these challenges before you. He doesn't make it easy for you at the outset. It's only when he sees that you have a degree of expertise that he will give you, clues, more codes and, to crack it. So that's Tirodhana, that is the veil. And that is what we talk of when we are referring to the avaranas. And how do you overcome the veils? How do you remove these veils, these 9 veils? It's by acquiring her anugraha. The grace, right? So the universal intelligence then says, okay, you're ready because now you've cracked the code. You've done the work that's required. You've overcome the challenges. And now I give you the grace to see beyond these veils. I lift these veils from your eyes. So that's anugraha. So then it's complete. Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Tirodhana, anugraha. So now, these 9 avarnas that we are talking about, these are the 9 veils which are placed before us. Now, because this is very complex geometry, and talking about the Sri Yantra is an entire episode in itself, but just to give you an idea, when we are talking of the square, it's largely, we said it's about space. Now, space already exists. Then we come to time, which is a human construct.
Right.
And why 3 concentric circles? Because everything in the Sri Yantra has a meaning, a significance, and a purpose. So if they've put 3 concentric circles, it's for a certain reason. We were speaking about how we can experience time only as past, present, and future. And also that in the past, present, and future, we go through time as, being awake, asleep, or in the dream state. So that is the 3 concentric circles. So we've done space and we've done time. Now, what is that one other aspect that makes life possible? It is causality, which in Sanatana we also call as karma. Now, the second avarana is the 16 petals. Okay, the 16 lotal petals that you see. Now, why 16? It's because you have your 5 karmendriyas, which are your 5 organs of action. You've got your 5 jnanendriyas.
Senses are we talking about?
Organs of action. Now I'm coming to senses.
Okay.
Right? 5 organs of the sense organs, which are called your jnanendriyas. So organs of action, organs of senses. So your sense organ tells your organ of action what to do. So your eyes are telling your hand, okay, pick up something. Right? So that's 10. What do these 10 work on? The Pancha Mahabhutas, which are the 10 elements that exist, which make up this universe. So from the grossest to the subtlest, earth, water, fire, air and space or ether. So that's 15. Now we come to the crux. What is that 16th aspect that for Natasha makes this experience of life your own? How you taste chocolate, for example, I will never know. How you're perceiving the color of your shirt is something that I can never understand. What feeling you have, what is evoked in your mind when you see something which is unfair, I will never understand that, much as you can try to put it in words. So this in quantum physics is called qualia. Qualia. Qualia, which is your sense of whatever is happening to you, your experience through your consciousness.
It's more like internalization of whatever
It's just your experience through consciousness.
Okay.
Right? Now, what is it that for you brings all of these 15 things together? It is your mind. It is your manas. Now, in Western psychology, we talk of mind as a very, fluid thing. It's just mind. But in Sanatana, we talk of mind as manas, buddhi, ahankara, and chitta. So manas is just the lower mind, which is trying to keep you away from harm and which is telling you don't do this, don't do that. It's like the naysayer. Exactly. Then you have buddhi, which is more of the intellect. Then you have ahamkara, which is your sense of self. And then you've got chitta, which is the universal consciousness. So here, the 16th petal that we are talking about is actually just the manas, the lower mind. So it's all these 16 aspects which come together, which creates causality for you or for anyone. And then so on and so forth. So you go through the 16 petals, then you go to the 8 petals, which is more about overcoming all your physical, emotional, spiritual circumstances. And then you go into the various triangles. There are totally 43 triangles, right? So we go through all the avarnas until we reach the center, the bindu, which is Shiva Shaktieka Rupini Lalitambika, where Shiva and Shakti take Eka Rupa in her form, Lalitambika. So the 9 avarnas, it's not necessary to go into the details because it's just very complex, right? But to understand that this is the process of evolution. You start with space, then you go through time, and then causality, and then into the everyday actions of our life, where we go through the various levels of consciousness. We get more and more and more evolved, where things like even manifestation and taking control of our health and well-being, and all of these are covered in these various avarnas until you come to the bindu.
Do these avarnas would differ according to if you're taking them in the sense of spirituality or in terms of the society or in terms of how it reflects in my physical body? Does it differ or is it the same?
The avarnas are closely related to the chakra system. So the 7 chakras we are all familiar with.
Right.
So we start with the Sahasrara, which could actually be seen as the bindu. And then, so we know of 7 chakras. There are 2 more chakras which we factor in where the Shri Yantra is concerned, and that arises here. You have the Agnya chakra. So above that you have a Soma chakra and you have a Chandra chakra. So these 2. So if you notice a typical South Indian, they will have the bindi here, and then they will have something here, and then they will have another dot here. So you look at even Sri M, or look at Swami, Om Swami. So he has a bindu, and then he's got 2 dots, right? So those are the 2 chakras that you can immediately connect with. So that makes it a total of 9 chakras, which are correlated to the 9 avarnas.
So basically, each avarna is connected to
one chakra. And also the 9 apertures that we have in our body, the 9 orifices. So it could be related to any of that. And even if you look at it astrologically, it's the Navagraha. So it's all 9. So that's what's reflected there.
So then, does that mean that if I have a specific concern area, it can be related to my health, it can be related to my relationship, do I need to meditate on the same Shri Chakra Or there are different kinds of...
No, there is only one Shri
There's
Chakra.
one Shri Chakra.
But you can meditate upon a specific avarna. So, for example, if health is your main concern, the 7th avarna is the Sarva Rogahara Chakra. So, you meditate upon that more than the others, and you will be able to then overcome whatever it is that you're struggling with.
And what is it for abundance, just in case if our
So
audience
abundance
wants
is overall the entire Shri Chakra itself. But within that also, the first 3 avarnas. The first 3 avarnas are more to do with your material needs. And after that, it becomes more subtle and it becomes more about your spiritual quest. So the first 3 avarnas, it's Sarva Saubhagya Dayaka.
So this is interesting. So basically, by meditating on the avarnas, I can actually balance my chakras.
Yes.
I've never heard this before. That's interesting and profound. It was an absolutely profound conversation with you, Vanitha ma'am. I think, I started as a novice. I literally had no idea about Sri Vidya and Sri Chakra before before the whole conversation of this podcast came up. And I think within the conversation, you kind of matured me into understanding Maya, singularity, and so many other stuff. It has been an absolute delight having this conversation with you. Thank you so much. And I really, really would like to host you again for some other topic. Maybe we can delve deeper into Maya. Right?
Or the Sri Yantra, because that itself is something that many people are curious about and very little knowledge exists out there. So perhaps that's something that we can do, or we can combine the 2 things.
Absolutely.
It's been a genuine pleasure. Your questions were truly very thought-provoking. And I think this has been my favorite podcast till date. And thank you for the team. I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the trouble to do all of this and to share the knowledge of Shakti. And I would like to close with a prayer from a Vedic text, the Rig Veda to be specific. And it's from the Sri Suktam. It's a blessing which invokes an abundance of all things enriching for everyone who's listening or who's watching.
Beautiful. Sure.
Om Shrivarchasvamaayushyamarogyama vidhachobhamanam mahiyate dhanyam dhanam pashum bahuputra labham shatasamvatsaram dirghamayuhu. Shri Matre Namaha.
Thank you so much. Loved every bit of it. Thank you. And I think I literally before starting the podcast, even last night, and in fact today morning also, I was like, aaj bahut bhari bharkam podcast. I sat in my meditation and I was like, I just surrendered it to Ma. I was like, this is for you. Let the questions flow, whatever you want the world to know, just take over me and then just let it flow. So if this was good enough, I'm happy.
Thank you so much once again. Thank you.
And to all of you who have stayed till the end, then I can only say one thing, that Devi really wanted you to watch this podcast. Maybe this is your entry to the whole idea of Sri Vidya and Lalita Tripura Sundari. So please, if you found this very profound and insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. And if you feel that this can be a great podcast for someone who might be at their low level and this can help them out, please don't forget to share it with them. We will be back again with a very interesting guest and another exciting episode very soon. Stay tuned.